Hello, good morning, and great to see you here. It's lovely to be back to a haunting ground as the former City Minister, and I was very pleased to support the industry then, particularly with the passage of the Financial Services and Markets Act 2023, which did so much to lay the steeds for the sort of regulation and the regulatory climate that we need. So a few remarks. First of all, let me be unapologetically optimistic. This is a wonderful industry that the UK stands up there with, in London in particular, but the whole wider United Kingdom, up there with the very best in the world, a dynamic industry that both contributes in its own right, but also helps make our wider economy more dynamic, helps allocate capital more efficiently, helps deal with processes, helps make our financial services more competitive, and removes friction from the world of the economy. I particularly think about payments and processes in all of the financial transactions that we make. It is our single largest industry sector, and it provides millions of high-paid jobs across every part of the United Kingdom. So it's something that all of us who are responsible in Westminster for the regulatory and fiscal environment within which you operate should have very front of mind. And the United Kingdom's formidable natural advantages have no diminution under this particular government. Now, I'll talk and try and give a balanced scorecard because it's not my role to be negative or oppositional for its own sake, but it is also right that we are honest about where we are. Good investment decisions, good policy is anchored in insight and honesty, and so there's a balance of issues on that front. But our natural advantages are formidable. This is a wonderful global capital city. And maybe even more wonderful if the tube drivers weren't on strike and if the budget for AI, we hear a lot about AI from the government, the budget for automating the London Underground is a big fat zero. So whilst many UK innovators are dealing with the much more cluttered, much more challenging domain of roads with pedestrians, with medieval avenues, our wonderful metro system is being held ransom and hostage in this wonderful city by recidivist unions and politicians who refuse to embrace AI when it could actually deliver. But notwithstanding that, we are a diverse global capital. We're a destination that billions of people on the planet look to, and we have, dating its origins back to the very first days of the maritime industry, we have a wonderful financial community and a wonderful fintech environment. How do we make it more wonderful? How do we remove frictions and impedances on you? Well, ultimately, we need a regulatory environment that supports people who are trying to take risk, supports entrepreneurs as they seek to assemble the factors of production from the spark to a flame that they've lit with an idea. And we need a fiscal environment that supports all of those things. And I am very pleased that the government has broadly taken forward the Mansion House reforms, that package of 30 measures to improve the operation and make our financial services more dynamic. I am pleased that the government has made some progress towards distributed ledger technology and is talking about things like stable coins and crypto. The challenge is that the world is moving ahead at very often an exponential pace, and we are merely moving forward in a linear fashion. And so whether I have my time again, or whether we lay down the gauntlet to the government, it's about pace. Words, not actions, not words. It's not about the words, it's about actually laying them down and getting legislation. And when any politician says, look, it's hard, it takes time, just remember this and hold us all to account for this insight, that when 900 steel-making jobs were at risk, Parliament was summoned on a Saturday and passed primary legislation, and a blank cheque was given to that industry to change the trajectory. So, fine, all good. If the government decides that that's what they want to do for the steel industry, let's, for goodness sake, redouble the speed when it comes to a wonderful growth industry that's going to help our economy move forward, the financial services and fintech. And similarly, in terms of things like a sterling stablecoin, about a cryptocurrency legal environment. We've got the European Union moving forward with MiCA, the United States, which when I was the financial city minister was very much in the slow lane, has now immediately accelerated with the Genius Act. And so that is the pace car that we have to seek to compete with. And then the other natural advantage that London, the city, the United Kingdom has always had is the place where capital meets ideas. That's our USP. That's how the United Kingdom can compete as a relatively small country, but on a world stage, with the rule of law, the English language, and wonderful capital markets. But right now, we are headed in the wrong direction. Everyone in this room will know founders or potential founders who've left the UK. I never talk down the UK, the public markets, the stock exchange. But data doesn't lie. And we're not getting what I would hope and aspire to, our fair share of listings, of capital raises, of secondary raising. I was at a meeting the other day where a significant round A and subsequent rounds investor said every single one of their companies, the first thing they do is try and incorporate them overseas because they don't see the United Kingdom currently as investable. Now, how do we change that? I don't want to dwell on the negatives. How do we change that? We need a polity that once again is unafraid, as I am and my party is, to celebrate wealth creators, to recognize that it is only the private sector that creates sustainable jobs. And by goodness me, if we are to keep democracy and our values alive, we need to create the economic growth, the prosperity, the jobs that will give people a stake in that society. Point one, a philosophical understanding of where wealth and prosperity comes from. Point two, a competitive tax regime, ideally simpler and lower. We have one of the most complex tax codes in the world, and so many of the frictions that we seek to place in people's way are based around taxes, stamp duty, insurance premium taxes, levies on the financial services industry, a huge, complex architecture. Now, no government will be able to sweep that away in a single day, a single budget, because of the state of the public finances. But at least an adherence, a recognition that we should stop digging. When you're in a hole, the first thing you can do is stop digging. So no more additional complexities. I welcome the Private Capitals Institute suggestion of a potential rollover relief for scale-ups. I regret the fact that the government has reduced the rate of tax rebate on venture capital trusts, a good piece of financial architecture. And then on the regulatory side, we need a profound approach to proper deregulation, rather than, and I know some people out of frustration have been attracted to the idea of state-directed pension fund investing. That is, in my view, a red line we shouldn't cross. We shouldn't encourage politicians to cross that line once they've breached that boundary. There's no end to the level of worthy direction of our wonderful pension capital funds. But also, it's become a displacement activity. Every minute, every vote, every piece of legislation talking about directing pension fund investments is a minute, a day, a week not spent on properly reforming a financial regulatory architecture which still, by and large, has its muscle memory in abstracting all risk. It's a post-2008 overcorrection, both in terms of its corpus, though we and subsequent governments have made endeavours to try and reduce that, but in muscle memory, in the people, the tone at the top. Culture beats strategy. And we do have, regrettably, a risk-averse, a precautionary approach to financial regulation, which, whilst may benefiting some, particularly incumbents, is very anti the idea of new challengers, disruptors. And economies need those in order to become more productive. So what will the Conservative government do? We will have those plans. We are unapologetic, notwithstanding some of the things that we did in government. I don't pretend that everything only went wrong on the 4th of July 2024. So notwithstanding some of the things that we did, that we were too shy to defend those who have a choice of domicile, who could choose any country in the world, or at least choose at least another country in the world, but they chose to come here, to invest here, to spend here, to found and support businesses here. And the fact that the United Kingdom is losing millionaires and billionaires faster than any other country on the planet is a terrible thing and will make us all poorer. And the next Conservative government will reverse that. We will have a plan on steroids to change the financial regulations and to have far fewer regulators. One of the worst days in my life as City Minister was when I was told the full largesse of the headcount in our financial regulatory establishment. And so many people trying to do business here told me about the sheer numbers of people in compliance rather than fee earners, innovators, and those seeking to grow. I've been told to wrap up, but I'm wrapping up anyway, which is to say that we will have the right environment that has a balanced approach to taking risk but accepts that. We will have a fiscal environment that welcomes people with capital and the visas to go along with that. And fundamentally, you will always have, in myself and my colleagues and our leader, somebody who is willing to champion and support the sector and devote the time to make sure that we can enact the measures that are going to allow all of you in this room and many other founders in the future to succeed. Thank you.